Hi everyone, it's Kira with Polymer Clay TV, and today I am going to show you from start to finish how to make this awesome shiny bezel metal look pendant. And I'm going to show you how to cure your Kato liquid to get it all shiny and beautiful, and how to make your very own bezels that look like metal. Join me, let's get started. So today you might want to find some cutters. For example, I used this elongated heart cutter to make this one. I used graduated circle cutters like this to create this version. And I used this Moroccan lantern cutter to create this, and also I used a silk screen, and that looks like this. This is a brand new kind of silk screen. It's this beautiful, highly detailed silk screen that creates an awesome design. So I'm going to use this one. These are pre-baked pieces of clay that I thought would be much easier to use for this kind of project. So we're going to need some clay, and I used black for this one. I used brown for this one, and today I think I'm going to mix the two and create a sort of deeper black, sort of black-brown color. You might want some rubber-tipped sculpting tools. I did use these to refine my edges and to create different shapes. You might want to use your metal stamping tools, and I'm going to use these as well. I've got an X-Acto blade, and that's for cutting out the larger shape. A regular blade, and of course I'm going to show you how to use an extruder to make the bezel. I'm going to work with this shape, which means I really don't need a lot of clay because I just need to make a backer for it and then a extruded line to go around. But I want it to be a sort of dark brown black color, which means that I'm going to take some of this brown and I'm going to mix in a very small amount of black just to deepen it a little bit. Black goes a long way, and one of the reasons I'm doing this actually is because my brown, this is burnt sienna, my brown lump of clay is way softer than my black, which wants to crumble on me, and since it's cold here and I don't want to fight with it, I'm just going to deepen my brown by mixing them together with my pasta machine. So I've rolled out my clay to a number 2 on the pasta machine, and that's, you know, still sort of thick, but not super thick. I'm going to put it on a tile, and I'm going to just give you an option here. On the back of this piece, I have given it some detail, and the mistake that I actually made here is that then I went and baked it on a glazed tile, so you can see all that shiny. That comes from baking on a glazed tile, wherever the clay touches down. So this time I'm going to bake on a matte surface tile to get a different effect. But first I'm going to just texture this in the back. And I'm going to lay this on here and just kind of get an idea of how large I need it to be. And I'm going to do the back of this piece, and I'm going to use my little metal stamped texture tools to kind of give it a hammered look. And I'm just going to do it in the middle. You could do this with any texture sheet, but I sort of like how this looks in the end, like kind of like hammered metal would look on the back. So I'm just kind of flipping this around and pouncing it down so that I get the design, but it's also a scattered texture. So you have to remember, especially if you make jewelry, that a person is going to pick it up and look at it on the back, the front, and you want the whole piece to look nice and finished. So this is one of the ways you can do that. So here I'm just going to lay this on here, and because it's pre-baked, I don't have to worry about handling it. And if you want a demo on how to get that silkscreen effect, Elisa did one live in our Facebook group, which is still on the wall there for you to see. She did some silk screening the other day. So now I know I don't need all this excess. I'm going to cut these off sort of around my design so that I have some clay to stick in my extruder. So I have a green one. This is this is the same extruder that's in the shop, just the one that we have right now is a pink color. So you just want to grab your clay and roll it into a log. Make sure it's warm. If you try to extrude really cold clay that you haven't conditioned in a while, it's just going to be harder on your hands. So this is how I like to do it. Make a little sort of nugget and then just flip open your extruder. It's easy to twist it out, and you're going to stick this in. And I like to put my finger on the end and push it gently as I twist the other side until I feel it come to even with the top. Now your extruder is going to come with all different size and shape discs. They look like this. And for these other pendants, I actually use this larger hole, but today I think I'm going to use the smaller one because this pendant that I'm going to work on over here has a lot more twists and turns and it's more detailed. So I want a smaller rope of clay. So all you have to do is twist the end on here and then start turning your extruder the other way until you will feel it tighten down, and then you just twist it and your clay comes right out. These extruders are very easy to use as long as your clay is nice and warm. And I just use my thumb to break it off. So now I've got this nice uniform rope of clay. And what we're going to do with that, and this is where your X-Acto blade will come in handy, because depending on what shape you're working with, you might want to cut some sort of beveled edges. Like here, I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to do this like I did the heart. So I would cut it off at an angle, and I'm going to just butt that gently up against the pendant, and then I'm going to start following it around. And because my base clay is not baked, it's just going to gently stick to it. I just use my finger to gently stick it down. And as I go around these not so tight corners, I'm not going to worry about it, but when I come to the top, that's a pretty tight corner, and I don't want to have a big lump thing of clay sticking out up there, so I'm going to cut it off and go back around. So that I've got a nice sharp point. So I've got that, and then I'll turn it and stick it up against it and continue down the other side. And when I get to the bottom, I'm going to chop this off at the same angle. Right here, so that they meet. And my bottom point is nice and pointy and sharp. And then that's when I'll use my rubber tip tools. And I'm sorry if that's a little dark. It's very bright in here, but of course I chose a dark colored clay, but you'll see why later. So I'm just going to use my rubber tip tools to get in here and smooth those seams where they came together. And I might even use this big one, for example, to push this sort of up into the curves of the pendant where the design is actually curved, because my finger is too large to get into that space, but this tool does a perfect job of pressing that curve in and making it look nicer. Alright, so now I've got the basic bezel, and I just have to decide on embellishments. So I'll put my extra clay off to the side, and I'm going to first cut my shape. So I'm going to use my knife here to make any shape that you want. You can follow along the actual shape, or you can slightly change it, just to make an outline. And it'll be useful that you have it on a tile so that you can move things around so that your hand can do what it likes to naturally do, instead of trying to move your arm around in funny ways like moving your hand. It's better to move a tile. All right, so down here I'm just gonna make this more pointed. And you can come back and use your fingers, however you want to do it. And then I'm going to use my metal tools to create a design going around the outside. I'm going to do it in two places, on the actual bezel itself and then on the outside of this area. I'm going to use this little circle guy, looks like that, and I'm going to create a circular design going around on the actual bezel. This other little guy that is sort of a teardrop with a pattern in it, and that's what I'm going to use to... Now what I'm doing here is, at the same time as I'm pressing down, I'm pressing inward toward the already baked piece. And what that does is it's going to attach the rope of clay to both the base clay under it, and it's going to press it up against the baked clay to hold it in. So that everything I do is both design and structural to hold everything together. Now my silk screened piece was already baked for half an hour at 275. So it is fully, completely baked and taken care of. So now the other part of this I'm going to bake again for half an hour at 275 Fahrenheit. So you'll want to take a look at all of this, make sure everything looks how you want it to look. And one of the things I'm going to come back and do now is, I don't like the hard, sharp edge of cutting this off. So I'm actually going to use my chisel tip to make another sort of feathered edge on the outside. So you can see I'm just coming in at it at an angle and giving it a little bit more detail on the edges. Just so that it's not like looking like I just chopped off the edge of the clay and left it. I've got a little design there. So now if this is a pendant, it needs holes. So I have various size knitting needles on my table. You can put a single hole, or as I'm going to do here, because I want it to be sort of robust, I'm going to give it 2 holes so that I can put large jump rings at either side and make some really funky tribal looking jewelry out of it. So make your holes, and now the final step is the Kato sauce. So this is Kato liquid polymer clay. It's called clear medium. A lot of people refer to this as Kato sauce. And I'm going to just get a Q-tip because this is brand new. Well, it's not brand new, but it's a newer bottle and it tends to be runny. So I'm just going to dump some in the middle of my pendant here. And the Q-tip is just in case I had any drips, but I didn't, so that was good. And now I have a dedicated brush for liquid clay, and I'm just gonna sort of allow it to run, and then I'm going to use my brush to make sure that it gets all the way out to the edges, all the way to my bezel, but not on it. So I'm going to just sort of push and paint the clay up to the edges of my bezel. And this way it'll look nice. It'll be all shiny there, but the actual brown clay will not be shiny. This will also seal my paint, which, because it's acrylic paint on the silkscreen, it really doesn't need to be sealed, but since this is jewelry, and I would expect that it would be touched and, you know, played with a little bit. I know I play with my pendants when I'm wearing necklaces. This will completely protect the silkscreen design too, and make it shiny and pretty. So we're going to just allow the Kato to find its own level. It's kind of like water that way. And you can see that it's white. If you get anything in it, bubbles or cat hair is famous in my house because my kitty likes to walk around on my table here. Just make sure that you've gotten it out. And then wipe off your brush with a paper towel or something. I keep this one dedicated for clay, so it's always got clay on it, so I don't care. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and bake this for 30 minutes at 275. Now, I want to tell you now, when it comes out of the oven, you're going to want your embossing or heat gun, and I'll show you how to use that right when it comes out of the oven to hit it with a little bit of heat, and it will shine right up. All right, we are fresh out of the oven, still on the tile, and this is not shiny, okay? It's still matte. You can see through it, but it's not that super shiny clear. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to take an embossing gun, and it looks like this. It's a Darius embossing gun. And I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to very quickly shoot heat at this while it's still hot out of the oven. Okay, it's still hot, so I'm handling it with a pot holder, and you can see that I've got that beautiful glass finish that's all see-through that is characteristic of the Kato sauce. And it only took 30 seconds, very quick shot with the heat gun. So that's what you want to do, is lay it on, bake it, and then the heat gun takes it to 300 degrees, which is the optimum temperature for the Kato clay. So if you do it fresh out of a 275 degree oven, it's really easy to just increase the temperature 15 degrees and get it done. As opposed to doing it cold, and it takes a lot longer, and you kind of risk burning and bubbling this layer of Kato clear because it doesn't heat evenly, as opposed to when it's fresh. So there's your tip. All right, let's finish this guy up. So we're going to use some metallic gilding polish, and this is back in the shop right now. We only have it every once in a while because it's a product that we have to special order. I'm going to use silver and graphite to get today's effect, and I'm going to use a cheapy makeup sponge, and you can see I've already used it, but I want a nice clean edge on there, so I'm gonna just chop it off. I got these at the dollar store, so no biggie. And I'm gonna just use the corner and use the edge of my bottle here to just wipe some of it off, and I'm just gonna swipe it along my design. And the reason I use the corner is so that I can get it into the crevices. I wouldn't be able to do that with my finger. So, you know, sometimes we have to use a tool. You can get these makeup sponges. I get them, you know, by the bag full at the dollar store for $1. So I don't mind going through them. And if you're gentle here, you can get it on the edges and tops of your design and just bring out and highlight that hammered and textured metal look that you created with your tools. And I'm just going to make sure I get it on the edges a little bit. a little goes a long, long way, and I'm just going to cover this. I don't want my polishes to dry out, so always keep them covered if you can. And I've got two colors because I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of the darker color around the edges. Just kind of deepening that look around the edges to make it look a little older. And then I'm going to flip this baby over and put it on the back also. Remember, we did the hammered metal back here, so I'm going to just apply this. And this is a acrylic paint coating. So once it dries, it's really not going anywhere. Acrylic paint is sort of turns into a plastic when it dries. So it's just kind of that hammered metal look on the back and on the front, and we'll just allow it to dry and you'll be all done. So how I got the effects on the other ones that I showed you earlier, this heart was done exactly the same way in the middle here, and I used red bronze and copper shine. So I did the copper first, and then I came back and did the edges with the red bronze to give it that two-tone effect. And this one was done with black clay and there's a chocolate bronze color. And then people were asking about this. This is a sticker, and it looks like this. It is a special, it's called a Magic Meld, and we are going to be carrying these very soon. So it's a heat, like a heat glue on the back, and it bonds right to your polymer clay, and then you just kind of peel off the coating that it's stuck to here. So it's a two-layer thing. It's not a Mylar foil, it's different than that. It's thicker, heavier, and it actually bonds to your clay with heat. So that's how I got this, and then I put it under that layer of shiny, beautiful Kato, and that's how I got this pendant. So I hope that you enjoyed this idea, and we would really love to see what you make. So be sure to come over to polymerclaytribe.com and join our free group where everybody shares and has a lot of fun showing off what they make. And download our app, because we have contests especially for people who are using our iPhone and Android app. Thanks for creating along with me, and we'll see you next week on Polymer Clay TV.